Welcome to the Moon and Gemini podcast. I am your witch in residence, April Edwards. This is our astrology of the week. This week carries a strong emotional and intuitive current. Water dominates the sky again. Pisces and Cancer both activated, and when water signs are involved, we are working with memory, instinct, and the quieter layers of perception. But this is not passive water. There are turning points here. Jupiter changes direction, Mars meets the North Node, Mercury retrograde is activated again. This is a week where something has been drifting begins to take shape. Not necessarily through clarity first, but through movement. March 9th, Mercury retrograde in Pisces trines Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. The week opens with a gentle but meaningful aspect. Mercury retrograde in Pisces forms a trine to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. Water speaks to water here. Mercury retrograde in Pisces is already turning the mind inward. We've been revisiting feelings, memories, unfinished conversations, and intuitive signals we may have ignored earlier. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is doing something similar at a larger scale. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and in Cancer it expands themes of emotional security, family patterns, belonging, and projection. Because both planets are retrograde, the growth here is internal. This is not necessarily a week of external breakthroughs. It's a week of understanding something differently. A memory may surface that helps you reframe a past decision. A conversation may reveal an emotional truth that was previously buried. Or you may simply realize that something you once believed about yourself is no longer true. Trines do not force action, they offer support. So pay attention to moments of emotional insight, even the small ones. They matter. March 10th, Venus in Aries sextile Pluto in Aquarius. On March 10th, we get a very different kind of energy. Venus in Aries with Pluto in Aquarius. Venus in Aries is bold, immediate, and honest about desire. Pluto in Aquarius represents deep transformation occurring through ideas, communities, and collective shifts. When Venus and Pluto meet through a sextile, something underneath the surface can become visible. This can manifest as powerful attraction, profound conversations, or a sudden awareness of what you truly value. Sometimes it reveals a dynamic that has been operating quietly in the background of a relationship. Other times, it awakens passion for a creative project or a cause that matters to you. Because it is sextile, this aspect invites participation. Transformation is available. But you have to be willing to just engage with it. March 10th, Jupiter stations direct in Cancer. Later that same day, we have one of the biggest shifts of the week. Whenever a planet stations, its symbolism becomes louder. Jupiter governs growth, wisdom, opportunity, and belief systems. During its retrograde period, those themes have been internalized. You may have been reconsidering what security actually means to you, reevaluating your relationship to home, family, or emotional safety. Now Jupiter begins to move forward again. The insights you've been gathering internally start to translate into outward momentum. But Jupiter in Cancer doesn't expand through conquest. It expands through nourishment. Growth now comes through building something that actually supports your emotional life. Not something impressive, something sustainable. March 13th, Mars in Pisces conjunct the North Node. Midweek, we reach one of the most faded feeling moments of this cycle. Mars in Pisces meets the North Node. The North Node represents direction, evolution, and the path forward. Mars, action, courage, and the willingness to move. When Mars touches the North Node, action intersects with destiny. In Pisces, this may not look like bold confrontation. Instead, it may appear as the moment when you realize that avoiding something is no longer possible. A conversation you've postponed, a decision you've been circling, an emotional truth you can no longer pretend not to see. Pisces dissolves illusions, Mars pushes movement. Together, they can create moments where the soul says it's time. Not necessarily dramatic, but undeniable. Mars 15th, Mars conjunct Mercury retrograde in Pisces. This is important. Mercury retrograde already has us revisiting the past. Mars brings heat. When these two combine, thoughts become actions, sometimes faster than expected. Conversations that have been simmering may finally surface. Words may come out more directly than intended. But there is also the potential for clarity here. Mars cuts through fog. Mercury in Pisces has been swimming through emotional waters. Mars can help articulate what has been felt but not said. Just be mindful of tone. Under Pisces energy, people are sensitive. The goal here is truth, not victory. If we step back and look at the larger pattern this week, tells a clear story. It begins with emotional understanding. Mercury and Jupiter working together in water signs invite reflection and insight. Growth resumes as Jupiter stations direct. What was internal begins to move outward. By midweek, destiny intersects with action when Mars meets the North Node. By the end of the week, the mind and will collide as Mars and Mercury meet. Feeling becomes movement, insight becomes speech, and the key is not to rush the process. Water teaches patience. Not every realization needs immediate action, but when the moment comes to act, you will feel it. The current will shift, and suddenly the path forward will feel obvious. This week is less about dramatic events and more about subtle turning points. Pay attention to the conversations that matter, the memories that return, the instincts that keep surfacing. Sometimes the universe doesn't shout, sometimes it repeats itself until we are ready to listen. And when we finally do, the next steps become clear. This work grows through word of mouth. If it's been meaningful to you, you can like, share, or subscribe. That's how it reaches the ones who need it.